All right. I wanted to sit right in the middle if you don't mind. If you don't mind, get right in the middle of it. Guys, I'm just going to let you know this is probably going to go beyond 12 o'clock, right? So yeah, I'm not going to apologize because we need to give these ladies time of day. We need to have this conversation, and we honor moms today. So I'm excited to have you guys today. Thank you for agreeing to do this. Before I said we would do this interview today, I know some of you said, what are we going to talk about? Some of them were nervous. They just may almost said no to me, I could tell. But really, I wanted to just say this is going to be an encouraging time and an honoring time for you guys. And I just want to get right into it. When I said it, I recently became a parent. That journey for me is just getting started, and I know there's so much more to come that I haven't seen. And all of you, real briefly, what was the most significant thing in your journey of motherhood? Whether it was a moment, whether it was a moment with God, your marriage, what could you say in a few words? We could start right on that side with Miss Carolyn. She was hoping she wouldn't go first, but...
Yeah. Is it on? Yes? I think there are many defining moments, but one of the ones that I remember vividly is when I had a situation with my eldest daughter, and she made a decision that I did not agree with, and it broke my heart, and it hurt me so badly. And I went to God and I said, God, how could you allow this? I mean, I thought I did everything right. And he shocked me when he said to me, it's not your choice. It's her choice. And even though I didn't agree with it, I had to just give her over to God and said, she's yours.
Wow. That's good. Miss Alida?
I think for me that, there's been so many different moments, but the one that stands out the most is I had the opportunity to be in the delivery room with my youngest son and his wife. And I have watched him grow up, and to see the way he supported his wife all through labor, he was incredible. And to see the way he supported her and the way he parents his children, it just made me feel so good as a mom to see my own child now investing in his children and in his family. That was really powerful to me.
I feel so out of place with all these amazing ladies here. I'm like the baby up here. I think there's many things that's flashing in my mind, but one of the things is that my children teaching me what forgiveness is and how to ask for forgiveness, especially with my baby girl. If she does something like last night, she broke a very expensive lamp, and I was not happy about it. And she is the type of person that she's quick to say, I'm sorry. And she ran up and she said, Mommy, I'm so sorry, and pulled out all the money in her piggy bank to pay back for this lamp. And she will not let go until you say that you forgive her. And she says, Mommy, I'm so sorry. And I remember one time I said, okay. And she's like, Mommy, I'm sorry. Do you forgive me? Yes, but she wants me to say it. So I had to say, yes, I forgive you. And then she will say, thank you for forgiving me, Mommy. And she's 8 years old. And I've learned so much from her about that process of being able to go and say, I am so sorry. Would you forgive me? And being able to speak that out. So,
yeah. I think for me, enough, it's been a journey. And when I try to just pick out those defining moments, there's like a theme. And one of the themes for me is that constant sense of God's teaching me, and hitting those moments so often of, God, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what, and nobody is giving me the counsel that I think I need. And just over and over seeing that Holy Spirit, he knows my children better than I do, and he cares more about them than I do. And seeing him give me the wisdom and sometimes highlighting things that they were hiding that I didn't know, and just knowing that we're partnering, and I'm not by myself in this.
Wow. I know this in itself is a whole sermon, and somebody made a comment about this, that some of the questions here that I will ask. I mean, you could talk about these for an hour.
Yep.
And I hope that at a different point in time, that you would approach these ladies and be able to extend these conversations. I mean, they're here, they're available, but we will breeze through some of these. I would like to spend a lot more time, but hopefully we can talk about these another time. So, one of the things that used to happen in our home, my dad used to often say, you call your mommy all the time. Mommy, where's this? Mommy's the sock finder. Mommy knows where things are at. Mommy knows when things are happening, who's moving, when they're moving. See, I'm not gonna generalize this with every home. I know every home is different, but I know there's a pressure of that dependency. And it differs from culture to culture. If you've noticed, we have 2 Belizean ladies right here. We also have 2 American ladies. So hopefully we have that diversity in the responses. But how do you cope with that dependency? And I know it spills over even into the workplaces. So who would like to take this up first? You can go ahead, Miss Sheralyn. I'm just gonna point it out, so you have no choice.
Okay. Well, I think part of it is recognizing when they're getting too dependent on you, and I think helping them, give them some responsibilities, and trying to find that balance where we're teaching, but we're also allowing them to learn to take responsibility, and so. To me, that's been part of it is giving them not the big chunks, but giving little chunks of responsibility so that they learn and they build confidence. And I'm not behind them getting ready to criticize them and telling them what they're doing wrong, but trying to model and then give them the opportunity and to be right there with them so that that happens. And then I think just balance, really being aware. A lot of times we get overwhelmed because we just aren't aware that things got out of balance. Yeah. So to me, that's a big part of my journey and learning is there are things that are negative in your life that are just going to pull you down. It just takes a lot out of you. And then there are things that we can find in our lives that are positive, and we've just got to keep that balance. And then there are things in our lives that are neutral. It's like a give and take. And so for me, balance is really key.
Balance and a give and take, and teaching right. them how to be independent. What would you say, one of our Belizean mamas, Miss Andrea? What would you say? How do you cope with that dependency?
I send them to their father.
That's a good one.
I really do. I'm like, go to daddy. I mean, I could just like go and hide in the bathroom like my husband does, because there's a study that says men spend 7 years of their life hiding in the bathroom. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna double it and make it 14 for me. So go to daddy. I mean, like, I will be in the house and daddy is outside with the kids, and they will leave from outside and come inside to ask me something. I'm like, go right back to your father. Yeah. So it's a balance. I think that, we can, when we work together and, I start to ask them the same questions that they would be asking me, like, that answer.
Right.
How do,
right.
solve it, figure it out. If you can't, then you come back to me or you go to daddy. So that's how I do it. I don't know if it's the right way.
Send them to their
daddy.
That's
how I do it. Send them to daddy.
And I like that. And even an extension of the question is then, how do you give us the cheat sheet as husbands, as children? how do we get you guys smiling? How do we help a little bit more? How do we bless you and alleviate some of that pressure? I know some of the husbands will look at me like, don't be asking these questions. They're gonna have more expectations, but I believe, this is the balance that we're talking about. And in many ways, when I found it, the more I helped my wife, the more she was free, the more she was happy, the more she carried a joy and was able to express herself. So how do we do this as men, as children? And I'll direct it to this side of the panel.
When I got this question, it was really easy for me to come up with a few answers, because I think one of the things that's important, especially when you've got young children at home, is that if it's a couple, husband and wife together, you need to make sure that you get time away from the kids. And one of the biggest things that was a help to me was not to have to plan every single part of that. When my husband would take the initiative and he would get the babysitter and he would decide where we were going to go, that was a huge break for me, because, as a mom, I'm the one planning every meal, planning who's going where and how to get this person over here and how to do that. So when men take the initiative and take over in some of that planning, it's a great stress reliever. It really, really is.
Yeah, you guys can applaud if you want. It's all right. And I hope I'm helping the guys, and not just the ladies. We just don't hope to direct the ladies and give them guidance, but the guys, I hope you're listening keenly on how we can really be a great help. And how do we get you smiling, Mrs. Hulse?
I think that as women, we are so used to, as Alida says, planning, doing so many things, and many times we don't ask for help. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're too tired to stand up, or, you're just overwhelmed. And I think that children and husbands could be a little observant. You can tell mommy's getting stressed. You can go to mommy and say, how can I help you? Of course, we women can ask for more help, but I think that, as Alida said, any kind of help is greatly appreciated in any way, even if it's just clearing the table, but any help at all helps to relieve the workload.
Yeah.
And I agree with you about that time away, that sometimes we just need to be selfish. We just need to get away and leave you guys, and you just figure it out on your own. Amen.
And it's even a perfect way to get into the next question, because you always hear people saying they're busy. Moms are busy. Everybody's busy. But you need to take time for yourselves and rest. How do you stay healthy? How do you maintain healthy friendships and keep a healthy community for yourself? How do you do that? And I guess I can bounce back and forth between the sides there.
I think it goes off, I'm going to go off what Miss Carolyn said about being selfish at times. Because if we do not take those times for ourselves, we'll be burnt out. We won't be able to be the best versions of ourselves. So for me, I decided that although I'm not much of a morning person, I decided that I'm going to get up extra hour earlier before my kids and my husband, so I could have that quiet time. Put my coffee on and I just have my quiet time, and then I'm ready to go. And then I also hide chocolate and eat it in my room, and then if the kids come in, I kind of just do this. But yeah, chocolate is also one of the ways that I take care of myself, by eating chocolate. But yes, it's very important. I make sure that I schedule times with friends, female friends. I will say, let's go have coffee, or let's go do cholis or something, right, even if it's for an hour or two, to get away so that you could recharge, because we need each other. And I think sometimes we just get caught up doing everything else that we don't realize that we need to be maintaining those other relationships.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. I like that a lot. Just don't let them know what the stash is if you're keeping it in the house. Mrs. Harbour.
I think one thing is expectations, and that I struggled with probably my whole parenting is, you have these expectations that really are unrealistic, that you've got to take care of everything, you've got to be perfect. And I think part of being healthy is learning what those expectations, what are healthy expectations, what does the Lord expect of me, and managing it. And also just the whole person, that we've got to remember it's not just the physical, though I love the chocolate. That's a good idea. It is finding those things that feed you and nourish you, because you are getting depleted a lot, and there's a lot of expectation from others and from yourself. And so recognizing when your spiritual bank account is low, recognizing when your emotional bank account is low, and when your physical one is, and really knowing that it's not just okay, but it's really important to care for those areas. And a lot of times I think that's what we struggle with is, I need to sacrifice and take care of everybody else. But it's really important to maintain that so that your tank is full, so that you do have things to give.
Yeah, so it's not just the physical, but the emotional, the mental health. And I think mental health is such an important thing when we fail to talk about it, because they expected that you sacrifice. It's expected that because you're the mother, it's because you're your parents, or whether you're leading, even in the jobs, I think they just expect you to give everything and take you for everything that you got. So what would be that balance? What are some of the signs that you would see that your emotional, your physical, your spiritual tank is low? What are some of those indicators, would you say? Yeah, on this side.
On the side. Well, I know for me, and maybe some other women can attest to this as well, but one of the signs that my spiritual, emotional, physical bank account is low is I get a little cranky. And my answers get more short, and my patience is very thin. And so I think that's something to watch for. One of the things that I used to do that always let my kids know they needed to leave me alone for a minute is there's a song, "Change My Heart, Oh God, Make It Ever True. Change my heart, oh God, may it be like you." If I started singing that song, my kids left me alone.
Oh, I love it.
My husband's shaking his head.
I think that's true for all of us,
Yeah.
that we can tell we're not handling things as well as we
Right.
used to.
Yeah.
And it's time to get away, or time
Yeah.
to do something.
Time to do something. I agree. That's good. That's good there. We often hear of midlife crisis.
For men.
Well, I'm gonna add a little context, right? I'm gonna add a little context because I feel whether human, male or female, you come to that point in your life where you realize you want something more. You want something for yourself, that you have a dream, right? And whether male or female, I feel that happens to us. And these are some of the times where you feel like, whoa, I gotta change. I gotta do something drastic. I gotta go chase my dream. How do you do that as a mom, as a full-time mom, as a full-time wife, as a full-time, whatever your profession is? How do you even get the motivation and confidence to step out into your dream? If you have. Yes, sure.
I think that if a woman is in a certain situation, if you're in a home, you're married, you have children, and you have a dream that you want to chase, if you don't chase it, it'll be to everyone's detriment. You'll be miserable. You'll be dissatisfied. Life will have no quality for you. And so if you do want to chase that dream, then I think you need to sit with your family and discuss what you want to do and how it will impact them and how everyone will cope with it. But I don't think that you should throw it away. I'm a mother, and so this should be my dream, because that's what I was told by some very well-meaning people, that why do you want more? Being a mother is the most wonderful thing in the world, and this is your purpose, and you will leave a legacy. And I'm thinking, I clean that floor, they come back and they dirty it, and I clean it again, and they dirty it again, and I'm thinking, what eternal purpose does that have? But we have seen in this day and age that we can do both. And it can derail a little, but if you can bring it back on track and you can work it. But at the end of the day, I feel like it would be worse to sit there and not pursue that dream, because you will blame the children, you will blame your husband, and after they're gone, you might have maybe not a midlife, but a 3/4 life crisis because you didn't get to pursue your dream for the sake of all these people. And I don't think that being a mother and a wife means that you give up who you are and who you wanted to be in life. I think we should be able to work that together.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, and I would even move right here. I hope every lady can kind of chime in here. But I know for Miss Alida, you started recording an album. You did this fitness thing, and you did many drastic changes midway through your life. What was some of that motivation? What was that journey like for you?
Well, I think the biggest motivation for me was when my youngest child left home. Actually, no, I had just sung at his wedding and came back home, and I was up late one night. I was praying for both of my children, and I just started crying, and all of a sudden a song came to me. So I was 50 years old when I wrote my first song. And that was something I never, ever dreamed I could do. And so it was after that, after writing that song, and I sent it to Mervyn Boodrum, not knowing, I didn't really know him that well, but sent it to him. Showed it to my family first to see if, they thought it was good enough. And, they were supportive, and so I sent it off to him. And then once I realized that, okay, I'm going to have to sing these songs in front of people. And, the older you get and body changes, and I thought, I at least want to have my arms look good when I'm holding up the microphone. And that's what drove me into the gym. So it was vanity that made me make some life changes, but also my health. I have fibromyalgia, I have arthritis in my neck, and I have learned that I have to take care of my body. I have to work out. I'm in the gym 3 days a week. I go for walks. The other 2 to 3 days a week. I sleep better. I function better. I can think better because I'm eating better, and I feel better. So that all of those things, those are motivations for making changes and chasing after my dreams.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. Wow. Ladies over here, anyone?
You get to answer that one,
Well, I mean, if
Well, I do. I have, I'm thinking about, each of us has different gifts and abilities, and Ecclesiastes says that God has put eternity in our hearts. Yeah. And so we might not have this amazing voice, but God has put something, a desire in all of our hearts, all of us, men and women. And, the Bible says hope does not disappoint. And I feel like that's really a big part of it is to allow yourself and the Lord to fan that flame of hope, that desire. And, we have seasons in our life, just like, she was 50 when it really broke out. And so, it may not bloom and flourish early on, but hope is so important. And I feel like the Lord keeps reminding me, even when I have new ideas, it's like, what can you do today? Okay? What can you do to prepare and to sow into that? And if I have a dream down the road, a lot of times we just wait for God to open it up. And He's waiting for us to do our part and to get ready. And that hope, really enables the Lord. I feel like it opens a channel, opens a pathway for God to then do what He's waiting to do. And He's waiting for us to get ready.
No, that's good.
I love that you mentioned seasons, because that was what was on my heart, that there are seasons of life, and Alida and I, we always talk about this because there are certain things that she's doing now because she doesn't have kids in the house. I still have 3 kids in my house, and I can't live my life in somebody else's season. I need to know the season that I'm in and live to the fullest in this season. Wow. My husband is one of my biggest motivators. He's the one pushing me. Like for today when I got the invitation, I asked him first, and he's like, really? It's time for you to step out, go for it. So everything that I've done and I'm doing is because of him pushing me. And I want my children to also see that you need to pursue the giftings, the calling that God has put on your life. You have to pursue it. And I love what Carolyn had said, that the world is in need of our gift. I don't know, you didn't say that exactly, but the world is in need of our gifts and our talents. And if we don't use that, I always say that some part of the world is a bit darker because we're not using it.
Right. That's so good. That's so good, guys. I love this. This is so good. See what I was talking about, guys. So we could go on with this forever, but it's so amazing how you realize everybody here had a dream. Everybody there is a dream. It'll be the worst thing for us to look at our moms, to look at the ladies, to look at our girls and tell them they needed to follow a certain path and then inhibit them from chasing what they could be. And I love how they say that husbands must allow. Husbands must sit their wives down and say, hey, how do I help you realize your dream? What's on your heart? How can I make that happen for you? Yeah? All right, guys, if you haven't asked that question, when you get home, there you go. Major husband points. And I know we can't talk about dreams without talking about boundaries. Again, I just love the topic of boundaries because boundaries are the fences that we have to keep what we need in and what we don't out, right? The healthier they are, the healthier you are, and every part of you. What are some of those healthy practices that you do in your marriages, that you practice for your children, at your workplace? What are some of those healthy boundaries that you keep? And we can start here.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I've been doing is a boundary. If it clashes with my family time or clashes with my family, I don't do it. I say no. And so I let people know with work, whatever, if it's going to take me for a long extended time away from my family, then I turn it down. Or I will, I just took on a new client, and the first thing I said, my family is priority. So I will do this, that, but if it comes to clash with my family, then I can't do it. And it's just the season that I am in right now. My kids need me to be very present. So everything that I do, I have to make sure that it's not going to be detrimental or my children will suffer for me not being there. Yeah. So that is one of the boundaries. And, I run everything. I have a close set of people that I keep as accountability. Yeah, right. And I run things past my husband. And that's how I kind of function these days. Right. I say, if God says yes, husband says yes, the kids are happy, then I go for it.
Then it's good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Anybody on this side here?
I think that as a family, we have an identity. We have family values. We have certain values that are our family's values. And we try to teach that to our children. There are certain things that they know, don't ask. Sometimes they still ask, and we just have to reinforce it, and those are boundaries that we set for our children and our family members. So, the kids will not be left home without anyone there. So if someone invites us somewhere and we don't have a babysitter, then no, we can't go because we don't lock up children in a house by themselves and go. That is one of our boundaries, one of our values, and just things like that just defines us as a family and who we are. That, no, we don't do that. Even if they have never heard of it, they bring it up and we're like, no, that's not something our family does. Like, they're not going to your house for sleepover because I don't do that in this day and age.
Yeah.
You know, and just different things that we have set up as our family values or family boundaries.
Right. And I love that perspective of protecting the family, because you have to see your family first. Even though we're talking about dreams, we're talking about other aspects, but there's a fence that you got to put around your family, that not everybody can touch your family, not everybody can see your family whenever they want, and those are some of the things that we got to take note of. But I'll take it a step further, because there are boundaries to keep other people out. What about the boundaries for your children? Because then sometimes you'd often hear parents say, well, my child asked me to do this, so I can't say no, or my husband, So those personal boundaries, have been taking it a step further as a woman, as a mom. How have you dealt with those things? I can direct it to Miss Alida.
Okay. My kids are grown. My oldest is 31, my youngest is 28. But when they were younger, if they would come to me and they wanted to do something, there were a lot of times when they were demanding that answer right away. And I would tell them, if you want me to answer right now, my answer is no. But if you give me a chance to think about it, maybe I'll have a different answer. I'm not guaranteeing that I will have a different answer, but if you give me a chance to think about it, I might have a different answer for you. So that was one of the ways that I protected myself from that constant,
Yeah, I like that.
They've said it all. I think just the priorities, really keeping them in order. And I grew up in a family, my dad was a pastor, and everything was ministry. And thankfully, all of us kids did not turn from the Lord, but that was wounding, because it transferred to me that I wasn't important unless I was doing ministry. And I think that happens on any level, where if we put our career or provision or other things above our families, and then more importantly above the Lord. So to me, it's that one really primary boundary was to guard my time with the Lord. Because if I don't, then everything else goes downhill. And then secondly, to make decisions that do not put other things above my family. But we also learned to bring the kids along with us. That's different. When you can include them, that really helps. But it doesn't say that it's more important than them.
Yeah. And that's so good. I think that boundaries is something that we forever learn. Even I knew that walking in as a pastor, I had to learn that I'm a child of God first, and I'm a husband to my wife, and now I'm a father to my child before I'm a pastor to everyone. And that may be hard for me sometimes to kind of layer and navigate on the daily. It's challenging, but even harder are other people understanding that. And if we don't define those boundaries, other people, they know how to define them for you right away. Oh, you don't know how to define the boundaries? I'll line it up for you right there. This is where you go. So I just love the discussion of boundaries. Again, this leads us to, I don't want us to talk about boundaries without touching on the issue of abuse. And, abuse is just, I feel, and it's such a broad topic, deep, but in many ways, abuse could have been neglect. Abuse could have been boundaries that were not guarded. Abuse could have been, and I know it's a sensitive topic. How do we start talking about this topic in our homes, in our church? What would you say to those women in marriages? What would you say to the children who are in homes that they can't come out? What would you say to those people in relationships? I know it's a hard one, but we cannot move from here without talking about the issue of abuse. As a church, we can't afford to look away and be silent.
I think that we could learn a lot from people who have been abused. Because you would hear a lot of circumstance, a lot of situations where people got abused, where some people didn't expect that, and they don't set the boundaries in place because of that. I could give you examples. We had a net group at our home, and a lady came, and she brought this gentleman who was not her husband and not her child's father. And the child was about 3 or 4, I don't remember, very young, and she wanted to go to the bathroom. And the mom asked me, "Where's the bathroom?" And I showed her. And the man took the child to the bathroom, and my heart grieved, because there are just things that you don't do. Because he's a stranger in my mind. He's not her father. If people come to stay at my home, I am not going to have a little boy and a little girl sleep in a bed. You have to protect your children. I think as parents, that's one of your primary responsibilities from God. And a lot of children who are abused were not being properly supervised. Just things that weren't put in place. It's hard to say all those things, but I think we're too trusting of everyone. And I think that no mother should feel bad if they have certain standards to protect their children. In fact, I don't care who thinks I'm paranoid, because at the end of the day, once the abuse happened, you can't undo it. And so it doesn't matter to what lengths you have to go to protect your children, even if other people don't understand. That's okay. And I'm the principal at a school that have preschool, primary school, and high school, and I have missionaries come in all the time to do ministry, and I have to sit them down, and I say to them, we are not like the U.S. You can hug the children, you can pray with them. You cannot put them in your laps. And I have to give them guidelines of what you can and cannot do. Because people trust everyone. When it comes to protecting your children, trust no one. No one. Because abuse comes from the most unlikely source, and I cannot repeat that enough. The most unlikely source, your best friend that you trust, your brothers, your sisters, it comes from everywhere. And so there's a great burden on mothers to protect their children from abuse, and not only girls, boys.
I 100% agree with you. The other thing that I'm thinking about is intimate partner violence, that domestic violence that happens. And, you know, I think it can start, that we can start educating our children very young about that. I had 4 brothers growing up. My father would not allow any one of my brothers to hit me. They were never allowed to do that. They teased me unmercifully. They never left me alone, but they never, ever hit me. And I had 1 spanking from my father. So I've never been hit, by a man. And when I was 16 years old, the boyfriend that I had at the time, he was a pretty big guy. He was a football player, and American football. So he's a pretty big guy. And we were standing in the hallway at school, and he was mad at something else. He wasn't mad at me, but he was so angry, he punched the locker, the metal locker that was right near my face. He was like this close to my face, and he punched it and just was screaming and yelling because he was so angry. And I never went out with him again, because even though he wasn't mad at me, that was a huge, huge red flag that he had a temper he could not control. So, young ladies, if you see that kind of anger, if you see that kind of flag, pay attention. Pay attention. Because that man now, he's my age, he was a high school friend of mine. He's not had a good track record with women. And God showed me that early on. So pay attention to those red flags. He's not going to change. That's a part of who he is, that anger. And until he works out whatever is causing that anger, he is not going to change. So pay attention to those red flags. You are not strong enough to change somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, the only man
good.
you can change is a
That's
boy's
a good
diapers.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I have to keep this going
Yeah.
because it's a different perspective. We can't take anything for granted. Would you please continue?
I was thinking of going back to with paying attention to our children, because not every child will say, this person makes me uncomfortable. But their body language will tell you. So we have to pay attention. Stop forcing our children to go and kiss uncle so-and-so, grandpa so-and-so.
That's right.
Because they might be uncomfortable with that. I see where we force our children to go and hug grown men, and sometimes they're not even your real uncle, you know? And it makes you so uncomfortable. I mean, I had to go and hug grandpa, uncle, and I just hate it. And like, no, hug up, you don't know them people, you know. But pay attention to the body language of your children. If they're telling you, pay attention and listen, because they might say it in a different way. But listen to them. Do not create that environment in your home where they know that they can come to you and tell you anything, and that you will give them that ear, that you would listen to them. And the next thing that I do in my house, I tell the kids, if anybody touches you, say anything to you, and if they threaten you, don't believe them, because they can't do anything to mommy, because, you know, sometimes they will say, well, I will hurt your mom or I'll hurt your dad, or nobody will believe you. So we use the excuse, what the perpetrator would say. We talk about that and how they should respond and not to believe them. So that is something that we do in our house. And I seriously, the same thing, I don't trust anybody. People tell me I'm a bit paranoid, but I would rather be called paranoid and protect my children from putting them in a situation where they could end up with scars for a lifetime. So.
Yeah, again, you guys said it all. I think just that emphasizing the good, helping them know what is healthy, teaching our kids and modeling what's healthy, so that, you know, it's like I hear when bankers are learning how to recognize counterfeit, they spend a lot of time with real money so they can recognize the counterfeit. And I think just that love and devotion and spending time with our kids so that they have that trust and they know if they say something that mom and dad are going to listen and take them seriously. And that's what we do. We take them seriously. Yeah. But I was thinking just generally last night I was just kind of praying about this because my heart, it does break for people, for families who don't have, you know, a husband and a godly foundation at all. And I was kind of picturing it in my mind like a seed that's put into a desert. And I mean, I was in a real dysfunctional family, but I did feel loved and valued. And I was just saying, Lord, what about the families who are planted in those deserts? I mean, they don't have that stream. And I just heard him so loud and clear say, do you think I can't put a river in the desert? You know, that's what Isaiah talks about. And I just felt like he was saying, no matter what the environment is, you know, I mean, all of us are affected by the environment. But he was just saying, if you cry out to me and really call on me, I will come. I will answer you. But I think a lot of times when we're abused and when we're in those situations, the very worst thing that we can do, but the most probable thing that I'm going to do is withdraw because nobody understands, and I begin to pull away. And I actually, the last thing I'm going to do is ask for help. And I felt like he was just really saying that's a big part of it. If you feel like you're in an impossible situation, and I'm not trying to be trite, I know it's hard, but we have to cultivate that kind of a practice that we go to the Lord instead of running away. And Miss Carol had that word this morning. He's saying, my hand is here, you know, come, and I will be I am the perfect father. I'll be your husband. But also I felt like the Lord said, for those of us who maybe aren't in the desert, we need to be very aware of families who are. And that's part of our call as the body of Christ, to be those spiritual uncles and aunts and whatever, to come alongside and to help bring that water to those dry places. And I feel like that's the other part of it. It's not just, oh, you don't go trust the Lord. That's important. But then we also need to be proactive and looking for ways where we can be the family and the body of Christ.
Man, wow. I think there's much to touch on when it comes to the issue of abuse, but you guys have said so much important things. And I even want to segue into, how do we get to talk about it? What role does the church play? And you kind of answered some of this. What can we do as a body to create an atmosphere and a culture, that makes it okay to talk about our brokenness? It makes it okay to talk about, seemingly broken relationships. It seems almost taboo that we speak about our problems, we speak about our abuse, we speak about, but I think those are the same things that are hindering that growth and that freedom for the discussion of the topic. What do you think we can do as a church to come alongside?
I think one of the things, or in my opinion, the most important thing that a church can do in situations of abuse, whether it's physical, sexual, whatever, I think you need to take it seriously. And I think, criminal acts need criminal prosecution. And it's not something that we can just sweep under the rug and pray over this person and, they've repented, they've asked for forgiveness, so the issue is over. That's unacceptable. That is absolutely unacceptable. I work for the Child Development Foundation. I don't want to violate the confidence of any of my clients, but I know that there are times when there may be a youth pastor or a teacher at a Christian school or somebody like that, and he's abused a person over here, then he abuses a person over here, then he abuses a person over here, and Christians are hiding that information all along the way. So how many people are we going to let that perpetrator abuse because we don't want to turn them over to the police? We want to handle it inside the church. The church needs to address those issues and take them seriously.
Yeah. We're on the home stretch here, guys. But I felt like this was such an important topic to touch on. Just one more. Anybody else who wants to comment what we can do as a body? We need to address it with seriousness. Anybody else?
I just feel like relationships are really critical.
Yeah, relationships.
And not just teaching, and I mean, we can do seminars on parenting and all of that, but relationship is critical, because when someone is in abuse, an abusive situation, I've heard this so many times. In fact, we're getting ready to do a prison chaplaincy training this next week, and I was doing some research about that, and so many stories, at least of the women that I've heard, they tried. They weren't wanting to do that violence. They tried. They went to this person and that person. They went to the police. They went to their church. They went to all these people, and nobody took them seriously. And, James says, we do that. We say, be warmed and be fed and go on your way and trust God. But we don't help. And so I think we have to really go deeper in our relationships, and we have to develop that trust, and then we have to actually help and do something besides praying.
I was going to say something about relationships too, that as a church, if we have 200 persons, you cannot have a close relationship with everyone here to tell them your deep, deep hurts. And so the cell group should help with that, where you have a small group of people to have relationship. But it has to be intentional. Relationship doesn't just happen. Just because we come together to meet and pray and discuss the Bible doesn't mean you will automatically have deep, close relationships. But I think that there is a scripture in the Bible that a lot of people ignore, about the older women teaching the younger. And I am over 50, and so I consider myself older. I don't know how long God will give me on this earth. But I feel like the young people are very happy just to be in their little cliques. And they don't seek out the older women. They seem to think, you don't have anything to offer us. You are from another era, and you don't know what's hip and what's happening. And so they forego the wisdom that the older people have learned through the years. And I want to say that the young people could avoid a lot of mistakes that they're making if they would only seek some older women to mentor them, to give them wise counsel. And I have worked with young people all my life. I started to teach at a very young age, and I have always taught teenagers. And there is a phrase that we have in teaching that says, a teenager thinks, one, that they know everything, and two, that they're infallible. It doesn't matter if it happened to 95% of the people, 99. They believe they will be in that 1% it won't happen to. And so our young people need to seek out the elders in the church. They need to seek wise counsel, because your friends that you hang with don't have much more wisdom than yourself to help you. And many times they don't even know what to tell you. Yeah. They can cry with you, pray with you, but they cannot help you. And so there's a reason why the Bible says the older women teach the younger, and it should go the same way for the men.
Wow, that's good. That's good. And I think that we should take it for young ladies, and take that as an invitation. And I might be putting these guys on the line here, but I've personally sat in different council under these ladies, but I learned from them. We all have something to learn. So let's take that on. I know we have a women's group here, and I know it's still to develop into everything it could be. And probably this could be a layer of what could be happening there. Just last question before I let you guys go. They say comparison kills. It does. I know not only the young women, the older women, but also guys. I think everybody struggles with comparison and that insecurity. How do you deal with it? How do you walk in confidence of your own skin, and confidence of your gifts and the talents, and confidence of who God has made you to be? That's the last question, guys, so just take it away. Go crazy.
I learned from a young age that I do not fit in. From I was a teenager, I was different. And so by the time I became a woman, I had no desire to be like anybody else. I don't want to be like somebody else. I want to be me, even if I am not popular, even if I don't fit the mold. I am me, and God made me unique, and I don't want to be like anybody else. Most of the times, I don't like who they are anyway. So I will be me, and the people who love me for who I am, not because I am like them. They love me because I am different. Yeah. And I would say, you be what God has called you to be. You don't need to be like anybody else. Amen.
You know, I think one of the blessings of getting older is that, like Miss Carolyn said, if you don't like me, that's your problem. I like me. I like who I am right now. I think it's very dangerous to spend too much time on social media, because I think that is one of the places that we pick up that comparison. We see that somebody else, yeah, you can clap for that. You know, we see that somebody else, is doing something exciting, or somebody else got chosen for something you didn't get chosen for. You know, when people post that photo on Instagram or Facebook or in their WhatsApp status, people are not all who they post to be. You know, you're seeing somebody at their best, and you're comparing it to your lowest, and you shouldn't be doing that, you know? Comparison is a thief of joy. It really is. So keep your eyes on God. We sang a song earlier about there's a place for me. You know, God has a place for me. And if you know who you are and you know that you have a place, He always has enough. Just because somebody else has a good gift doesn't mean He doesn't have a good gift for you. He's got plenty. He's got more than enough. He's got something for every single person in this room. So don't worry about what somebody else has or what somebody else is doing. He has something for you.
Amen. We should have gone ahead of them. Yeah, because now we don't have anything
And then
else
I have to wait till you. So.
But I have to say, I have been one of those people who I lived too many years looking at what other people were doing and comparing what they had to what I didn't have, and not knowing who I was, and not appreciating what I had. And so I had to walk through that of learning again, and seasons is one of my favorite things to talk about, learning that, like Alida was saying, you know, what I may be seeing is that person's best. I have to know my season. I have to know who I am, who God says about me. And I realize that it is something that you have to be intentional with. Like every day, if you're struggling with it, like I used to struggle with it, and sometimes I still do, and I need a good whack across the head or something to remind me, hello, that's not who you are. That's not the life God has for you. And so it's counting your blessings. It's learning how to appreciate the things that God has given to you, and knowing that this is your season, and celebrating that moment instead of wishing, because we waste so much time and miss out on the blessings that God has for us because we're so busy looking at somebody else's blessing. You know, there's a thing with marriage that they say, don't look at the grass is not greener on the other side, or, you know. So I tell people, I water my grass. I'm not going to be busy looking and wishing my grass was green, because I'm doing it on my own. And so I think for me, it's important in staying grounded in who God says I am, and embracing where God has put me and the blessings that He's given to me.
Yes. I was thinking that song that we sing so much of, I know who I am. I know who God says I am. And so we have to renew our minds. I wasn't as fortunate as Miss Carolyn. I grew up wanting to please everybody all the time, and even though I felt different because I was a Christian in a very non-Christian environment most of the time, I struggled with that, wanting to please. But that is the part of renewing my mind and knowing who I am. And when I do counseling, sometimes I have people actually even picture this of, you know, God chose one sperm out of millions, one egg out of hundreds, and He brought those together, and that was you. He chose that, and then He did that with my children, and the Bible says that they're a gift, and He was reminding me this week, He says, when you go to get a gift for somebody, you know, how do you choose a gift for, especially for somebody you love? How do you choose that? You pick something very special and you try to match it to who they are. And I just felt like He said that with my children. I chose those two children exactly for you, and I made you exactly for them. And that does give me confidence when I look and think I'm not parenting as well as others, or, you know, Now at my age, it's comparing what your kids are doing career-wise with somebody else's kids. Yeah. And so parents, we still brag no matter what. And so, there's always, all your life, there's going to be that sense of, did I do enough? Yeah. But just, to me, that is my foundation, that's who God chose. And it was a gift, and he chose it especially for me. So I'm good for that.
Wow, that's good. Wow, I mean, there's so much more that we could have talked about today, and I hope we get to do a part 2 of this. It's been amazing. Guys, can we give these guys a round of applause? This is, yeah, amazing. Yeah.